Don't you care what other people think? No, basically, is the short answer. I don't care. If you don't like it, that's fine. That's your problem. But I like it, so I'm going to post it. Do you know what I mean? It really has nothing to do, your journey in social media, your journey in anything, not even just social media. It's whatever makes you happy. If it's not making you happy and you're doing it to make other people happy, then you shouldn't be doing it.
Hi everyone, I am super excited today because we have Tobi Ojora. She is a fashion content creator and she's going to talk to us a little bit about her journey on Instagram, her growth, helping you guys overcome struggles with self-love, body insecurities, things of that nature, all the things that we know that are associated with the life of being an influencer and content creator. Going to be answering some of your frequently asked questions, so I'm really excited to get into it. With that being said, Tobi, let's kind of get started with the first question that everyone I'm sure wants to know. What inspired you to get started on social media? What inspired you to start really posting your content as a fashion content creator?
So I think I've always kind of I never really wanted to be an influencer. I feel like I just sort of fell into the space. So around this time last year, actually, maybe around March last year, during the start of the proper pandemic, I think obviously everybody was just kind of home and bored, and I like fashion content. I posted fashion content before, but I feel it was the perfect situation in that everybody was home, bored, not doing anything. I had content that I thought was nice that I wanted to post. And then I guess from there, I just kind of gained traction and I just kind of stuck with it. And then brands would reach out and stuff and I'd post for them and then so on and so forth. And that's pretty much how I ended up here. I never really wanted to be a fashion influencer in the first place. I thought I was just going to stick with fitness. But then I guess people liked it. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll keep going there.
I mean, I guess that's what happens when you do what you love and
yeah.
Positively. I guess my next question would be, I think there's a lot of young women, whether they live in the UK, Nigeria, the US, that really, really look up to you and say, wow, Tobi could do this in a year. Well, I could do it too. Your journey is just really inspiring. So what advice would you give to those young content creators that, want to do it? They want to put themselves out there, but they're like, I have no idea how to get started.
I think honestly, but the first thing is a lot of people reach out to me about the confidence thing and they're like, how are you so confident in posting? Don't you care what other people think? No, basically, is the short answer. I don't care. If you don't like it, that's fine. That's your problem. But I like it, so I'm going to post it. Do you know what I mean? It really has nothing to do, your journey in social media, your journey in anything, not even just social media. It's whatever makes you happy. If it's not making you happy and you're doing it to make other people happy, then you shouldn't be doing it. So I think starting there with the confidence thing, it's easier said than done. Getting past the point where you really care that much what other people think, as long as it's not affecting your livelihood with health. And then I think after that, it's finding your niche. So finding what you like one content creator is never going to be exactly the same as another. For example, my sister is a content creator as well. She posts a lot, but I'd say she loves patterns and really, really bright colors. I like patterns and bright colors, just not as much as her. So I wouldn't post that kind of content. So you have to find where you fit and what your audience like. You'll learn from your audience as much as they learn from you. So I think it's again, discovering your niche, even if it's getting inspired by other content creators and forming your own specific personal brand through that. It's essentially just finding confidence, not having confidence, finding confidence, and then finding where you fit in a particular space, and then taking pictures, obviously.
I love it. My next question is, does being a content creator ever get overwhelming? Has it negatively impacted your mental health at any time? And if you have experienced these challenges, how have you really overcome them?
I think, like I said, the confidence thing again, it's easier said than done. And I've definitely had my wobbles, but I think I pride myself on being, I've never really it's gonna sound terrible, I've just never really cared that much what other people think. It can get a bit overwhelming. Obviously, there's a lot of work that actually goes into it, and I think a lot of work that people don't really appreciate goes into it. It's not just posting a picture on Instagram. That's the easy part, because if you're doing it for a brand, then you have to get the approvals and blah blah blah, 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 and it just takes so long. And then if they don't like it, then you have to retake it. It's just long. Anyway, so the posting is the least important part. I think it's more sometimes people come with their unsolicited opinions, and if I cared, it would be hurtful. I feel like the thing with social media, and if you have like a platform on social media, is that no matter how many people are like, oh my God, like I love your picture, blah, 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 there's always going to be, or not always, but there will be that one person occasionally who has something horrible to say. And that's the thing that will stick with you. So I think like looking past that and being like, you're literally a person behind the screen, like you don't even know me, and I also don't know you, so I don't care, is like, it's kind of what moves you forward. Like I feel like sticking on particular comments, obviously there are insecurities that people point out, like there's this person he kept on telling me that I had a large jaw, and I was like, okay, I don't know what you want me to do about it, like sorry, I guess. But I think getting past that and being like, well, this is something that someone else is seeing, not necessarily how I see myself, not necessarily how other people see me. Even if I do have a large jaw, sure, it looks great. It's kind of just getting past the point where you're like, do I really, like, is this really going to affect my life? Am I really going to let this affect me that much? Do I really care what a random stranger thinks?
Yeah, so I feel like what I'm really hearing you say is that being able to separate the opinions that matter and the ones that don't are
exactly. It's like okay, like my jaw, okay, so what do you want me to do with that information? You know what I mean? So yeah, it's definitely being able to separate the good and the bad.
We kind of touched upon this a little bit, but how do you avoid the comparison on social media? I think, these days I always hear I'm taking a social media break. I can't handle the comparison, seeing this person taking this flight to Ibiza, this person wearing this brand. Oh, my hair is not done. I can't change my hair as often. And it's really starting to get to people. Mm-hmm. I know for me, social media is a place for inspiration. Like it's my personal mood board, it's my personal stylist, but I get for some people, it really doesn't serve that purpose and it starts to drain them. So I guess what advice do you have for like that person who, some people go to your page, I'm sure, and are like, wow, like I'm inspired, like these are new looks. And some person's like, oh, I wish I could be like Tobi, or maybe they start feeling insecure because maybe they don't have the life, whether it be the clothes you wear, where you travel, whatever the case is. What would you say to that person?
I work in digital marketing, so we work with like a lot of influencers and brands and stuff like this. And I was talking to someone the other day who's actually, obviously you've heard of like confidence coaching before, but I was talking to someone the other day who's actually a comparison coach, which is slightly different to confidence coaching in that obviously with confidence coaching is teaching you how to be more self-assured and self-aware, etc., etc. But with comparison coaching is basically teaching you how to get past the point of comparing yourself to somebody in a way that's going to reflect negatively on you, in the sense that like comparison is a natural thing. It's a natural thing that humans do. Everybody does it. But there's a level of comparison where you can compare yourself to somebody and still be happy for them or happy for what they're achieving and think, oh, maybe if I worked or did XYZ, I could get there, or not necessarily, because that might not necessarily be your path. And then there's the comparison where it's like, I'm really jealous, like I hate this, I'm so envious. Mm-hmm. And that's what you don't need to be. So I think it's fine to compare yourself to people if you're doing it in such a way that's elevating you. So if it's like, I'm comparing myself to somebody, I don't know, who like has like I don't want to say better life, because you really never know what someone else is going through. And also your situation might be the situation for you. And if you're in another person's situation, you might not like it, but better life, for lack of a better term. So I might compare myself to somebody with a better life and still be happy for them and be like, wow, this is amazing. I look up to them. Mm-hmm. I want to work to get to that level. Or I could look at someone with a better life and be like, I hate this for them. I really want them to fail. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So obviously it's you can take, like, it's good to take breaks. I always think like digital detoxes are nice. Like it's good to take a break. But for comparison in particular, I think once you establish where you stand in the grand scheme of things, and once you acknowledge that regardless of whether someone else is doing it better than you or faster than you, XYZ, your journey still matters and you're still important, then everything else falls into place.
I love that. This is, I think, a good one. What is the biggest misconception that people have about you?
I feel like people have like a lot of misconceptions.
Well, here's your chance to just...
I don't know. Like, I remember ages ago when people were doing that thing that's like, it was like a Instagram Q&A thing. And it was something like, what does my social media tell you about me? Mm-hmm. And like I got like a lot of like really weird ones. It was like, you don't like being Nigerian, which is just, who said that? So there was that. There was the like, I'm unfriendly, which like, I wouldn't say, I can understand why somebody's social media would reflect that they're unfriendly, but I wouldn't say that I'm unfriendly.
Yeah.
Right?
No.
Okay, good. Like I get that one a lot, being unfriendly, I get a lot, which is really interesting.
I think that's so funny
Being
because
really serious, being unfriendly, which is like, that's, ouch, that's not me. That's just not me. So it's always really funny to me, but yeah, I get that a lot.
I mean, I think that's the beauty of getting to know people. I think we might have how we perceive people, but you never really know until you get to know that person. And sometimes that person with that like resting face, it might just be that like they're either staring off into space or they just might be a little bit reserved at first. So sometimes
that's me. I also never wear contact lenses, and I'm supposed to wear glasses, so I can't actually ever see anything. I have to squint, so it looks like I'm glaring, but I'm really not. I just can't see.
See, you never know. I guess now I kind of want to explore a little bit into the content creator space. There have been many reports that have revealed creators of color have been underpaid. And I guess what would be your advice to, women of color in this industry to ensure that they're being paid equitably, and any advice you have or commentary on this issue?
Well, I think first thing is, if an agency reaches out to you to work with you, always look at their roster and see how many influencers of color they have, and also check their turnover rate, because there's one thing having a lot of influencers of color, there's another thing having a lot of influencers of color that leave your agency. If all your influencers of color are leaving, then there's obviously a foundational problem. That's the first thing. I think the second thing is, never be afraid to ask. If you're like a content creator and you've seen someone else working for, there's a brand, I'm not going to name the brand, but there is a brand that has reached out to me several times before for gifting. But I know that they pay white content creators more. Well, they pay them and they have less followers than me. So, I've told them that I know that, and they've come back and been like, okay, we'll pay you, which I think is such an interesting thing. So I think it's that, and then also like not being like afraid to ask, like, your worth as a content creator, your worth as an influencer, what your engagement rate is, etc., etc. On average how many likes you'll get for a particular post. The brand isn't doing you any favors by sending you clothes. You're doing them favors by posting, whether it's clothes or hair or whatever it is. You're doing them favors by posting the content. So they should respect that and not necessarily adhere to your requests every single time, but be willing and open. You and I spoke about this previously with a hair brand.
Yeah.
That was offering way less than they actually are worth. Also, some of these brands, like, they make a lot. And to offer content creators way, like tiny prices is like, it's not. So I think just asking, honestly, like, a lot of these people have leeway and they expect you to ask. And if you don't ask, then you won't get.
Yeah, I think that not even in like the influencer space, I think in a lot of different industries, making sure that you're doing the proper research, because, if this, as a content creator, you are doing a professional shoot, like if you think about how much time does it take to do your hair, how much time does it do to do your makeup, get someone to take your pictures, sometimes having to reshoot because, it was cloudy one day, it was sunny one day, all of that is your time, and you don't want to do the math, and all of it is like pennies. I think it's really good to bring these things up, and for future content creators to really think about those things, especially creators of color, because while it's nice to have the opportunity, you also have to think about your time and what it's worth. And, even if you are going to take a lower deal, does it have a long-term return on investment? And just really thinking about those things. My next question is probably what everyone is always wondering. You are known for getting golden hour shots, being sun-kissed 24/7. So I'm sure the girlies want to know, how you get those angles, how you get the lighting, because not everyone was born a superstar. Some people, they're working on their packaging. So please share the gems.
I think, honestly, it's just like experimenting with angles. Like, I have a tripod. I have my sisters usually take my pictures. and select friends, because not everybody can get your angles. My sisters and select friends take my pictures, well, when they're around, but when they're not, I use my tripod. And I think with my tripod, it's easy for me. I always feel bad and I'm like, no, change the angle, no, do this, no, do that. So if I have my tripod and I kind of know what my angles are, then it's easier that way. Like, I know what my good side is and I know what my bad side is. I know the direction, the sun. Like, you know when you're taking a picture and you always like test it on video, I always test it on video and I'm like, okay, that sun is this way, then it has to be this way, or like there's dark sun and light sun. There's, if you take pictures in a shade, so if you take pictures outside and there's something over, you're always going to look brighter, like it looks better. So I think just experimenting with that sort of thing and like sort of understanding angles, understanding lighting, understanding iPhone settings. That's another thing that I feel like a lot of people don't know, is that if you're taking a picture on your iPhone, if you're taking a picture on your iPhone like at night, you can set the saturation before you take the picture, or if you take it in the evening, you can set the saturation or the brightness before you take the picture, so you don't have to do it afterwards when you edit it. So I think just like playing around with your phone and finding what works for you. Editing apps, obviously there's I use Lightroom all the time because it's the best app ever. So it's literally just trying everything, like trying like temperature. So if you want like to look more like golden, then like on Lightroom, you increase the temperature so like you look slightly more orange, like stuff like that. So I think it's just sort of playing around with apps and like playing around with your angles. Like there are angles that look amazing on my sister. Could never even try it, wouldn't even dream of it, because it just won't look good on me. So like you know what works for you and you know what looks good for you. So yeah.
I love that, because I think sometimes it's easy to go and say like, oh, this person's doing this person's doing that. But I think finding what works for you, finding your secret sauce and sticking to it, I think that's great advice.
Exactly. I think like, you know what makes you, like, I mean, I'm not even that tall. Like, I'm just not that tall.
Yeah.
But people think I'm really tall. But it's because it's because of the angles.
Yep. Another thing is, one of the things I really love about your platform, about you, is just that you're a really positive person. You really uplift people. And I'm a true believer in people, when they have that about them, it really comes from a great mindset. So, and I think you develop your mindset from what you consume. So are there any like favorite quotes of yours or mantras that you really live by that kind of help you cultivate this spirit that's so contagious?
That's such a good question. I'm not sure I really have very many quotes. I feel like I just like, something that's really important is like, I have a tendency to be a realist. Some might call it pessimist. I prefer a realist. And I think once you see things for what they are and you can see the beauty in things, for me, like something I always think about is like, if I'm having like a bad day at work, like this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me in that moment. Mm-hmm. This too shall pass. It's not the end of the world. So I'm thinking about things like, at least I've got my health, at least I've got my family, blah, blah, blah. That makes, I think it's comforting. It's just kind of like reframing every situation and seeing the good in every situation. Again, like I said, I'm a realist, so I think negatively or realistically. And I think like that definitely helps. I think not setting my expectations way too high and setting manageable expectations for myself and setting manageable expectations for everybody else. And then using that as a springboard so that I'm pleasantly surprised when those expectations are exceeded.
I like that. I think a lot of people may or may not know that you're not a full-time content creator.
No, I am not.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you are definitely not.
That was the other thing. Yes, that's true. Yeah. Misconception that I don't work. I do work. Yeah. I have a full-time job. So I take all my pictures either at the end of the day, early in the morning, or at the weekend. Yeah. And I don't take days off work to take pictures because my boss would not have that.
I like that. And I think a lot of people think that, oh, in order to really make it, like I have to leave everything. And for some people that might make sense and some people that might not. So can you kind of touch upon how you're able to kind of balance your schedule with time management, whether it be being more strategic about the deals you take, whether it's like having a calendar, just for those people who think that, you know, I can't really do this unless I'm doing it full time. I think it's important to hear those stories like yours.
Yeah, no, the first thing is I'm really disorganized, always have been. It's not changing anytime soon. It's a source of complaint for family, friends, and my boss. So it's not changing anytime soon. That's the first thing. But I think in that I've managed to find what for example, if I'm taking a picture by myself and I'm on lunch break at work, it's like 1:00. I'll get ready in the morning. I'll know I need to take this picture today because it needs to be edited by tonight and it needs to be sent to the brand tomorrow for approval. Then I'll carve out maybe like an hour to take that outfit shot, or at the weekend I'll do like content in bulk at the weekend, or like I said, at the end of the day or the beginning of the day, if things are looking good outside, then I'll try and get shots where I can. But I think it's like it takes time and it can be hard, but at the end of the day, I mean, this is what I signed up to do, so I might as well do it. So I might as well like find like what works for me. And like I don't have a calendar. I just kind of, if like a brand reaches out to me and they're not offering enough for the time I have to carve out to do this content, then I'm not going to take that deal. It's simple as that, because there are other priorities. Honestly, content creating, influencing, whatever you want to call it, it's like the least of my concerns. It's just like a nice thing that I like to do on the side. It's a nice thing I like to do on the side that I care about. So I think if you want to find time, you will find time. It does not take that long to take, unless I'm making like a reel, and that'll take all day and I have to do it at the weekend. But aside from that, you can carve out 20, 30, 40 minutes during the day to just get one piece of content. And yeah, if I'm sure I can't meet deadlines with content, like I said, if you don't ask, you won't get. I always ask for extensions from the brand. And so that works for me.
I think that's really, really good advice, because for everyone, it might not make sense to just immediately leave your full-time job.
Well, I think that's a terrible idea. Am I allowed to say that? I don't think like you should leave. I think that you should always have a backup plan until you're sure it's going to be lucrative. If I wanted to leave my job now, I don't think I could. Not that I'm not comfortable in my influencing, but I like to have other things to do on the side as well. And I think like for now, at this point in my life, particularly so early on, because a year in is really early. I'm only a year in. So I think so early on, you should always have a backup plan, because like I said, I'm a realist. It's not always going to work out for everybody.
Yeah. I like that because I feel like sometimes we don't always hear these narratives, and while it is true anything like is possible, I do think it's good to hear like those other perspectives. And I guess my last question to you, I'm sure doing influencing, doing full-time work, it gets exhausting. And it's one thing when you're just kind of doing it to do it, and then it's one thing when you have a paid brand deal and maybe you have to redo content and it just gets draining. Do you ever get unmotivated or just go ahead and explain.
Yes, I do. A lot actually, but it's because like sometimes it just gets, it's a thing of like taking on too much at once and thinking like, I'm not a superhero, I'm not a superwoman. Sometimes I'll do things and I'll be like, I'm sure I'll get it done, but I can't. Like over the past couple of weeks, I've had like a lot of paid content to get out. And there have been times when it's like, I'll work during the day. So I work from 9:30 to 6:30, and then I'll have to have done my content the day before or do my content during that day. And I'll have to edit, because say like the brand is in like an Australian brand or like somewhere that's like not on my time zone. I'll need to send it to them by the end of the day their time, which like the end of the day their time is like 1 a.m, 2 a.m, something like that. Then so I have to edit, then I have to send, then I have to go to bed, and then wake up the next day and basically do the same thing over and over again. And like it can get, especially when like it's not necessarily like they don't like the content, but it will be like certain things. Like I remember I was working with this one brand with shoes, and I spent all day doing the content, was happy with it, sent it to them, and then they were like, in the last frame, part of the shoe is cut off, would you mind refilming? And I was just like, yes, I do mind, but I will do it. So yeah, it's just things like that. Say like you're taking a pic, say like I've done a picture and like London, it rains all the time in London. It's so hard to find a nice day in London. So when brands ask me to reshoot in London, how am I supposed to do that? It's raining out. Do you know what I mean? It's just like things like that. It can get frustrating and it can get annoying, but once it's done, like it's done. I might as well just get it out of the way, so.
Yeah, well, I am just so happy I got to talk to you today, and I'm so excited for all of the people who get to watch this video, because I think sometimes being an influencer, being a content creator, having your side hustle, having your business, having your brand, it really does get glamorized at times where it just
I mean,
seems,
you know this.
yeah, like there's so much behind the scenes work between, you know, us with like collaborating, working with different people's schedules, having to redo things, having to be flexible. I just don't think sometimes people understand how much work goes into building something and the consistency it takes. So I really appreciate you just shedding light on so many different issues because, you know, if you're going to sign up for this, I'm a big believer and you need to know what you're signing up for.
Yeah.
So thank
Obviously.
you so much for everything.
You're welcome.
All right.